Hi everyone, welcome back to Company Secretary Executive Entrance Test, meaning CSET Bulletin Discussion. In the previous sessions, we have discussed the bulletins for the months of June, July, and August. And in today's session, we'll be discussing the bulletin for the month of September, which is issued by ICSI. As I mentioned previously, it's not very difficult to get this PDF. You have to just Google for ICSI CSET Bulletin 2020 September. If you just Google it, the very first link that you get will be taking you to the ICSI website from where you can download this PDF. Yeah, this bulletin consists of discussion with respect to every paper that's there in your CSCT, but I am restricting myself to discussion exclusively with regard to the current affairs paper. Come on, without wasting much time, let's get started. So this particular bulletin which is issued by ICSI for the month of September has only one thing in it altogether. That's regarding the farmers bill or the farms bill. Yeah, so this is very much in news for the last few days, wherein there was one that happened in the state of Karnataka as well, where I basically reside. Yeah, I think a lot of such halabulla, a lot of such fight, a lot of such band, a lot of such revolt would have protest would have happened in the place where you reside as well. So that's what I think so, because I didn't follow it up on a national basis as to where exactly was the buns called for. Okay, so this happened. So there's not going to be a probability where some of us can say I didn't hear of this. So you might have heard of this. Yeah, I want you to remember that you're reading this from the perspective of the examination, and you should keep your political interests aside. See, you might be a Modi fan, you might be an how to say anti-Modi person or whatever it is, okay? You're not going to be seeing this as a BJP supporter or an anti-BJP person or something. You got to see this from the perspective of the examination. You got to see this from the perspective of knowledge basis, and you're not going to be judgmental at all about this. So what I'm trying to tell you is remove your preconceptions about this. Don't see yourself as someone who's for this or against this, but just try and understand what exactly does this bill has. I am not going to tell in favor of either of the parties. I'm not going to tell it for government or against the government. I'm just going to tell you what exactly does this bill has and what sort of questions can come for the sake of examination. So that's something that I want you to make sure as a mindset that you carry, because current affairs as a paper is designed in such a way that it talks about a lot of things that's happening off late, and all of a sudden I see students jumping in and then taking sides. So guys, this is news, we're discussing facts. We should not be jumping in taking sides, but in fact look at it from a broader way, look at it from a perspective wherein we are open to hear about things and what exactly does it deal with, to frame an understanding of it and not an opinion. You guys get that? So with this notion, let's get started. If I have to talk about this particular discussion in particular, no, it basically has three bills in it. The first one is the promotion and facilitation bill, what you can see here. Yeah, the first one is the promotion and facilitation bill, and the next one that's there is empowerment and protection bill, and the third one, which is actually not included by ICSI in this particular bulletin, is something related to essential commodities. Yeah, so there are 3 point discussion that we need to do. The first one is something related to farmers, again it is promotion and facilitation. The second point is empowerment and protection, and the third one is essential commodities. Once we're done with these 3 pointers, we're done with understanding this particular thing. Okay, now aging back, we need to understand that there are alternatives for everything, but only one thing for which there is no alternative is food. You guys get that? You have to eat food, and the food has to come from the earth, and the person who does it is farmer. So farmer has never been, what to say, has never been taken lightly in our country. He's always been in use, whether it is for the sake of he committing suicide, or whether it is for the sake of he being called as the backbone of the country, or ever since our independence, the first two, what to say, 5 year policies of our 5 year plans of our country were dedicated to agriculture. And in fact, even after that, in 1970s, we had something called as green revolution, and everything else in our country is completely dependent on agriculture. And even during this entire lockdown, and then amidst coronavirus pandemic and everything, no, one thing that we got to remember is everything else stopped in the world. Lockdown, the offices closed, but the farmer had to go back and then, what to say, do his duties. You guys get that? Even the prime minister in his earlier speech, in that prime minister Ann Yojana, you guys remember? Yeah, in that particular thing, when they gave out so many, like 5 kgs of rice and then other things free of cost to people across the country, Then the Prime Minister thanked two people: the honest taxpayer who made this possible for the government to distribute such a thing, and the second thing was a farmer who worked really hard to raise those grains. So those are the two things. That tells us the significance of a farmer in our country, not just in our country, but in the human life that we basically carry. Yeah. So with respect to farmer, the farming culture that is that the way it's there in our country, as projected rightly by every other movie that we see, is that the farmer doesn't directly sell the commodities to the consumers. There are a lot of middlemen involved in between. A lot of people involved in between will raise the prices. Like it'll just be like a movie if I tell it. Okay, farmer raises something and then sells it for 5 rupees to a person. That person will sell it to the ultimate consumer at 50 rupees. So farmer gets 5 rupees, but the ultimate consumer pays 50 rupees. The 45 rupees in between is going to the middleman. So that's basically not going back to the farmer who really worked hard for it. And the consumer is not getting it at a lesser price. So this elimination of middlemen is the hot topic for every other South Indian movie director who wants to make a movie out of it. I just don't want to name the movies, but that's how it's been seen. So this entire bill is like a movie now. Like it's all like a movie. All those things that we saw in the movies were actually like practically not possible. It was actually not legally correct then at that point of time. But all of that is becoming legally viable now. How is it? Yeah, the first one is promotion and facilitation bill. Promotion and facilitation bill is basically removing the barrier and saying that, dear farmer, you can sell your commodity to anyone. Now, when I record a lecture or when I shoot a lecture for a specific topic, I can sell it to anyone. Or if I write a book, I can sell it to you who's in Bangalore. I can sell it to few of my students who are in Mumbai. I can sell it to few of my students whom I've taught and they're in Chennai. And I can even sell it to people who are in Cochin. I can sell it to people who are in Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, Northeast, anywhere. Who is some like how can government stop me or how can anyone stop me saying that whatever the book I write, I have to sell it only in the state of Karnataka? Like government should not be doing that. Government does not cannot like would not do that with respect to any other product. But this was happening with respect to farmers. A farmer cannot sell his product whatever he raises. Now assume that I'm a farmer. I grow what to say ragi here in Mandya. Okay, Mandya. I have some farm. Okay, I raise sugarcane there. Can I sell my sugarcane that I grow in Mandya to Chennai? Can I take it all the way to Chennai and then sell it in Chennai market? No, I cannot take it outside Karnataka and then sell it. Why? Because in the regulation of our country, entire decision making or entire powers is basically divided into three categories: the state list, the union list, and the concurrent list. I repeat, the entire powers of the sectors in our country is basically divided into three categories: state list, union list, and concurrent list. What is state list? State list relates to those topics where the state government has the power. Central list defines those topics on which the central government has power, and the union list is central list. Okay, concurrent list is where both state as well as the center has power. State means now Karnataka's chief minister, Karnataka's elected MLAs together they take decision. That is state list. Now if it is under union list, the decision will be taken by the members who are part of I would say Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. They take the decision. If it is concurrent list, the state government as well as the central government together will take the decisions. So that's how it is. You guys get that? Previously, sales tax was under state list, and central excise duty and service tax was in union list. When GST came in, entire thing became in the controls of central government, and central government had to compensate to state governments. By now, you might have understood little about this. Agriculture was under state list. Agriculture was under state list. Now, when this act comes into picture, you know what's happening? Entirely, the power is shifting from state list to union list. That's the opinion of the people. That is the reason opposition is pushing and opposition is fighting against this. And a lot of people are thinking that okay, fine, this is not fair. Yeah, the states are losing its power. Entire thing is getting centralized in the central government. This is kind of a dictatorship. That's the kind of mentality. That is one of the reasons why the oppositions are protesting or political parties are protesting against this. Yeah, let us discuss about few other topics little later. Or to say the other reasons for protest. Our entire syllabus discussion is not to know why are people protesting, but in the process of understanding that, we'll also understand why are people protesting. Okay, I told you that entire people who come in between have been removed. So now there'll be no barrier. There'll be no barrier. Meaning, whenever there is no barrier, I am a farmer. If I produce, I can sell this anywhere. I can take it to Chennai and then sell. I can take it all the way till Rajasthan and then sell, or I can take it all the way to Uttar Pradesh and then sell. I can take my commodities that I raise to any part of the country and then sell them. That is the power that's given to the farmer. You guys get it? Now, what sort of a difference will this make? this will not make much of a difference for a big or say for a small farmer. Now if I'm a very small farmer, I cannot afford such huge transportation. I basically sell it here. But this will make hell lot of a difference for a bigger farmer. If I'm a very big farmer, I can't sell my commodities straight away to other people. State government had put restrictions and it has created a concept of APMC, yeah, agricultural produce market community or something like that. Okay, APMC yards. These APMCs, under this there are further regulatory bodies at a little lower stage called as mandis. This is the place where people can bring their commodities and sell. You guys get that? So a farmer cannot straight away sell his commodities to consumers. A farmer has to bring those goods to mandis where the traded or say licensed traders will basically buy it and they sell it to wholesalers, they to retailers, and they to shopkeepers, and then it comes to you. That's how it's working. But once this bill comes into picture, the concept of APMC mandi will be eradicated and a farmer can sell the commodity straight away to anyone and everyone. You guys get that? Yeah, you might see if the farmer bringing the goods straight away to the market and then selling it open-mindedly. Yeah, that's what will happen with respect to this particular bill. Which one? The Farmer Produce Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill. Yeah, let's see what's happening in this. The main provision says the new legislation will create an ecosystem where the farmers and traders will enjoy freedom of choice of sale and purchase of agricultural produce. They have freedom of choice whom to sell to and what is the price at which they want to sell. Yeah, and this basically removes MSP. MSP is minimum selling price. Basically, government used to tell saying that okay, this is the price at which you can sell the commodity. So this was in order to protect the interests of the farmers. So that concept is basically removed now. Now farmer can sell it at any price. He can sell it at a price higher. He can sell it at a price lower. Now thinking that the farmers are smart enough, it is expected to be sold at a higher price. Now this removal of MSP is one of the reason why few farmers are protesting and few farmer unions are protesting. You guys get that? They're saying that if you remove MSP, it will completely demolish the entire agricultural structure and it will cause huge losses to the farmers. They're afraid that they might be taken aback and the companies or the corporate world and the people might exploit the farmers to take away goods at a lesser price. So that's the reason why the farmers are protesting. Yeah, let's see it further. So this with respect to that, and we'll see the next point. The next point goes like, yeah, so it is there is a choice of sale and purchase of agricultural produce, and it will also promote barrier free interstate. I told you previously this was regulated by whom? The state government, meaning Karnataka state government would never allow a farmer from Karnataka to take his commodities to a mandi in Tamil Nadu and then sell it. He can only sell it to a mandi within Karnataka, which comes under APMC of Karnataka, and from there the wholesaler who buys, he can take those goods by truck to Tamil Nadu and then sell it. You guys get that? So now the barrier is being removed. Now you tell me, when the barrier is removed, what would happen? So interstate sale of agricultural produce is available for the farmer upfront. Now what sort of a loss is this? I'll tell you, when the entire agricultural produce sale used to happen through APMC and used to happen by mandi system, and it is under the regulation of the state government used to charge certain amount of tax, surcharge and levy certain amount of charges. Now that amount will not be received by the government anymore. So if I am a state government of Karnataka and if this bill comes into picture, or if this once this act is into force, now what would happen? My farmer can take the produce outside APMC yard, outside mandi, and then sell it straight away to consumer in outside Karnataka. If that starts happening, I as a state government will lose revenue. Will lose revenue. You guys getting what I'm trying to say? Because that structure of APMC and then mandi is lost now. You guys get that? So when that happens, the state government will lose some revenue. That is one of the reason why few state governments are revolting against this particular bill. Yeah. So barrier free interstate and intrastate, within the state and outside the state. Intrastate means within the state. Interstate means one state to another state. You guys get that? And that's available. And agricultural produce marketing legislation, that is that APMC regulations, has been scrapped. Next one, the farmer will not be charged any cess. I told you, right? There will be no cess and no levy of on the sale for the produce. You guys get that? And only has to pay and will not have to bear transportation costs. Okay, okay. This is an interesting point. Okay, will not have to bear transportation cost. Now, what do I mean when I say will not bear any transportation costs? Meaning he has to bear it. There is like he had to transfer the goods, especially till APMC or this one. So that is not on his cost anymore. Now, if the buyer straight away come to his farm and then buy it from him, there is no need for him to pay any transportation cost. But previously this was not available. All this are applicable to big farmers. If I'm a really small farmer, I would not take my goods to APMC. I'll sell it to some buyer who comes to my place. And that's not a good news either. When I'm a really small farmer, the people who come and buy from me would exploit me. You guys get it? So they'll definitely buy it for a very less price. Now, and that was very bad. Now I can dictate my prices. I can tell I want this price. And it's legal now for a farmer to sell it directly to customers. You guys get that? The next one. The bill also proposes an electronic trading. Now we are moving towards digital India. You guys get that? We're moving towards an electronic form of the country, wherein to say everything is electronic. Everything, like even the class that you're watching right now, should have happened face to face. You sitting right in front of me in the first row should have you're supposed to hear me, but that's not how it's happening. I'm sitting at my house right now and then recording this lecture at 10:40 in the night, and I don't know what time will you be watching it. Yeah, it's completely happening in an electronic format. Similarly, and farmer also need not bring the physical commodity of the goods to you and then sell it. He can open his own website and then list himself and then say this is the kind of wheat that I'm growing, this is the kind of vegetables I'm growing. You can see it on your phone. Okay, Channa Basappa, or maybe okay, is Ananda Basappa is the name of a farmer. You can just see anandabasappa.org is the website of a farmer, and then you can select it and then buy, add to your cart and then say yes, and then he might just deliver it to you next day. You guys get that? So that's the kind of thing that might be possible in the future. See if that can happen with respect to web designer, if that can happen for an notice an artist, or if that can happen with respect to someone who manufactures books or someone writes books or someone who does any other product. Same thing should happen with respect to a farmer also, isn't it? You should have that right to sell these products. So that's the point here. Yeah. So the electronic trading is being made available, and in addition to mandis, the freedom to do trading at farm gate, cold storage, warehouse, and processing units. So I can do whatever I want. I need not sell it at a mandi. I can sell these goods at farm gate. I can sell these goods at cold storage. After I produce my goods, I might keep all my goods in the cold storage, isn't it? I can sell the goods straight away from my cold storage. I need not. Usually, the concept was I had to bring them to mandi and then sell them. You guys get that? And the concept of mandi was like there were licensed traders, and these traders usually buy. It is to be like a bidding process. Like I quote some price, and one more traded license, say licensed trader will quote one price. All of us will bid one price highest, and then that's the rate at which the farmer will sell. But over a period of time, what has happened is all these traders have framed a union wherein like it's called as cartel. Cartel is illegal. It is profiteering agreement, and it is called as illegal under Competition Act of our country, Competition Act. But that's how it used to happen. Cartel, like I and few other say licensed traders will all decide, okay, fine, let us not quote higher price. All of us together will stick to a price which is way less. And once we stick to that price, by the kind of structure that's made under mandi and APMC, the farmer has to sell at that lower price. Let's buy that, all of us will make profit. So that's what was happening, and the farmer was exploited. Now that concept is not there. Now the farmer is not obligated to bring it to mandi and then sell. If all the traded licensors are basically putting a lesser price, the farmer will straight away go to a company which will actually buy it at a higher price. Now, for example, assume that I'm a farmer and I'm growing potatoes, and if I bring it to mandi, at mandi they're quoting me the price of 30 rupees per kg. I don't really know the cost at which the price of potatoes. So I'm just guessing. Okay, fine. Yeah, 30 rupees per kg is the price that all of them are quoting at mandi. I don't find it right. Okay, what do? I go to Burger King, I go to Barbecue Nation, I go to McD. So they say that they want to buy potatoes to make French fries, and they're ready to pay me 40 rupees. Yeah, why? What would happen here? If I sell it through this mandi, these traded licensors buy it at me at buy it from me at 30, and then they sell it to McD, or what do you say, McD, Burger King, and Barbecue Nation at 60 rupees. Now I straight away sell it to Barbecue Nation or McD at 50 rupees, so that this person is removed, and we basically, even I'm making profit. I'm getting more than what is to get at mandi, and he gets more than what they say, he gets it for a lesser price. And more interestingly, what will happen is, this is with regard to the next point that comes here. This comes in the empowerment and protection thing. Now, if you can see, okay, whenever you talk about fries, do you want long fries or do you want short fries? All of us like those long fries. If it is really small, it's not actually proper fries. So you can't use every sort of a potato to make fries. You need a potato which is grown big. Yeah. So that is the kind of description that the McD guys say. Now, the farmer when he's growing, he might grow small baby potatoes, or he might grow potatoes which are not really long enough. Those potatoes are not good enough to make fries. Now what will happen? Only few of the potatoes might be long. Now this particular person at mandi will grade the potatoes, the long potatoes, the small potatoes, the round potatoes, and he'll sell all these lengthy potatoes to all these food joints, example McD. When he's selling that, he'll call it a higher graded one and he might charge extra money. You guys get that? And if the McD guy straight away gets into a contract with the farmer, the McD guy can tell upfront, okay, I want you to grow the potatoes really long. Then the farmer will grow all the potatoes long. Then that grading will get skipped and the farmer's entire produce will get a good price. You guys get that? Basically, it was previously what happening was, okay, we used to produce and later that used to be bought. Now you can produce it based on the description that the customer wants. And in prior, I can have an agreement with McD guy. Okay, fine. You want how many tons? You want 5,000 tons? I will produce 5,000 tons for you. You want it lengthy? I'll grow it lengthy. You want it like a circle in shape? I'll grow it circle in shape. You want it small? I'll grow it small. So depending upon the description with which the customer wants it, the producer can manufacture and both of them will be happy. So that's the kind of thing that will happen. That's the kind of freedom that this bill brings into picture, because it removes the barriers and allows the straight communication with the companies and the person. You guys get that? Okay. And next one, in addition to mandis, freedom is given and farmers will be able to engage in direct marketing. That's what I told, no, direct marketing with people. And whenever this is coming into picture, the very important point against which the fight is happening is MSP. Yeah, that minimum selling price. That is it. The government used to usually announce a certain price at which the commodities are supposed to be sold. Not that everyone could sell at that price, but that price was there. Now that price concept would be removed. Now when this price concept is removed, one of a very important observation is the government is basically privatizing the entire thing that it had to control. Now government was controlling this agricultural sector. Now slowly it is giving the powers to the farmer, saying that boss, I used to regulate. Now that price was told by the government, meaning if people are not buying it, government used to buy these commodities at that price from the farmer. Not entire production, but maybe like basic commodities like maybe rice, wheat, channa, ragi. Few of these important cereals government used to buy. Government used to buy at this promised price. Now this promised price concept is going back. So if in case in a specific year the farmer produces the goods by incurring high expense, the agriculture growing cost is become more, and the persons whom they are selling to are buying at a lesser price. If there is a loss, if there is a loss, then this risk has to be borne by the farmer. The government will not come for the savior here. Why? There is a possibility of profit which is being taken benefit by who? Farmer. So if there is a possibility of loss, the farmer has to pay. Basically, government is doing, boss, your business, you handle. I am keeping my hands empty. Yeah, this is one of the reason why again there is a conflict and everyone's saying government is not doing things up to its mark. Now, they basically bought private partnership in railways, which was completely government owned. They're trying to sell off Air India stake, which was again completely government owned. They're trying to sell off what is a stake in banks and everything. So what they're doing is government, whatever is completely regulated by government, government is trying to give it up into the hands of the private people, into the hands of the corporate, and it's basically moving out. So what would government do is the question that's been raised by few people, and that's one of the reason why there is a protest band and all that's happening outside. Yeah, that's another point. Let's talk about the second part. This is the second bill. So the all that we discussed till now is farmers produce trade and commerce promotion and facilitation bill. Now the next part is empowerment and protection bill. Yeah. Now under this bill, what happens is farmer can have a contract with a company straight. Now I can have a contract with McD. I can have a contract with Walmart. I can have a contract with Spencer's, Big Bazaar, Reliance Fresh, all these people. They will tell me to produce this particular thing. I'll produce that commodity and I'll sell it to those people. And this will be enabled. And when this happens, there can be contracts that will be entered by the farmer with the companies. You guys get that? Now, before even I start producing a particular agricultural produce, I can have a seller ready with me. So the seller is here, the company. Okay, assume that you run what is a food bazaar and I am a farmer. We both get into an agreement. You tell me that you ask me to raise rice. I say okay. Fine, you tell me how much you want, what quantity you want, and we'll also fix upon the price. And that price is fixed between you and me. So on that particular day, when I raise the agricultural produce and it's all packed and about to be delivered to you, assume that we agreed upon 60 rupees per kg for rice, and on that day the rice price is 55. You would still buy from me at 60 rupees per kg, and if in case on that day the price becomes 70 rupees per kg, still the farmer will sell it at 60. So it has its downsides, but the farmer is fine. Okay, fine. I'm not going to sell it at a throwaway price. You might have seen this in news, no? Tomatoes, onions, and all. The price had become so low that the farmer is so frustrated. They won't sell it. They throw it on the roads and then they go away. Such a scenario won't happen. Yeah, the price is agreed upon between the to say the company and between the farmer and the company by way of an agricultural contract in prior before the to say the goods have actually been produced, and the price is fixed. When the price is fixed, I know, right? I won't agree to a price which is lost to me. I would agree to a price which is profitable to me only. You guys get that? So it would not create loss to me. It might give little lesser profits, but it will not create loss. So that is the concept. Yeah, of this. This is being allowed now. But the concern here is companies would be knowing the law better. Companies can hire a company secretary. Companies can hire a lawyer. But think about an agriculturist, farmer. Can he hire a lawyer? No. So when there is a contract between agriculturist, a farmer, and a company, who knows the law better? The company. So when the company knows the law better and the farmer doesn't know it that better, so there is a possibility that the company might exploit the farmer. Company might bring out the agreement in such a way that it is not much in favor of the farmer. You guys get that? And then the farmer is again exploited for the fact that he's not legally educated. You guys get that? So there is a body that needs to be created which basically ensures that the farmer is not being exploited because of his legal ignorance. So that's a pointer that we need to take in here. So let's see that. The new legislation will empower the farmers for engaging with processors, wholesalers, aggregators, wholesalers, large retailers, exporters on a level playing field. Yeah, the way the middlemen used to trade it to people, now the farmer can straight away trade it, and all of them have equal opportunities. Let me use this color. Okay, yeah, so they can basically deal with all these people straight. Yeah, and price assurance to farmer even before sowing of crops. So that MSP which was announced by government is now removed. Why do I need MSP when I can straight away get into a contract with a person and that person will tell me how much is he going to pay me? Yeah, so the price assurance to farmers even before sowing the crops, even before I start growing my potato, I have had a contract with McD saying that McD will buy my potatoes at this price. So even before sowing the crops, in case of higher market price, farmer will be entitled for a price over and above the minimum price. So that MSP is gone. And a lot of farmers who are protesting told, I was watching the news meanwhile, and then they told like, okay, MSP is removed, so we'll be exploited. That's what we're telling. When MSP is removed, it means that we can sell it at a higher price. Yeah. So that's the concept. It will transfer the risk of market unpredictability from the farmer to the sponsor. Like I and McD have agreed that McD has agreed that they'll buy potatoes from me at 50 rupees per kg. Done. So McD has agreed. Now, if in case on that day the rate of the potato goes down to 40 in the market, McD will still buy it from me at 50 because the sponsor, meaning the McD, has contract with me. You guys get that? Previously, there was that risk was there with the farmer because the minimum selling price was usually announced by the government not before sowing the crop, but somewhere after that. But here, before sowing the crop, only the price is agreed. So the risk is now in the hands of the sponsor. So sponsor has to get into the risk. And in fact, McD would be more than happy to agree at 50 rupees. See, the price of the fries is same. See, just because the rate of potatoes has increased or the rate of onions has increased, have you ever seen what is say McD increasing the rate of the potatoes or something? Sorry, rate of fries or something? No, that doesn't usually happen. So they keep their margin stable. So they know, okay, fine. Irrespective of the market price, I'll get the product from my farmer at 50 rupees. So my price is this much and I'm fixed. Yeah, that can happen. And in fact, a very interesting catch is a lot of those people who trade in the stock market, like we buy the shares of Wipro, TCS, Infosys, or Tata, anything, and then sell on daily basis. So that is share trading. Similarly, there's something called as commodity trading. Yeah, number of people who deal with commodity trading is little less in comparison to share trading. Commodity trading usually started with items like iron or what they say all the metals, gold, and then silver or zinc, all this. Okay, but of late in the commodity trading, a lot of other items have also been added. You can basically trade a lot of agricultural products on commodity scale. You guys get that? So that can become a decider price based on which the farmer and the company can decide upon a price. So it is not very difficult for the farmer or the company to decide upon that common price at which they are going to buy and sell the products on a future date. So this contract between the farmer and the company is beneficial to both of them, in fact, and it is some kind of an assurance to both of them. and it's not going to create a havoc, or it's not going to create a situation of uncertainty to either of them. Got it? And okay, it will transfer the risk of unpredictability to sponsor. That's the point. And then let's go to the next one. It will also enable the farmer to access modern technology, better seed and other inputs. Now, I told you, when this particular customer of ours, the company, says that they want a product in a specific description, then they might tell us use this particular technology to grow it in this way, and we might start inculcating it. So that will lead to straight implementation of better technology and better seed quality and other inputs into the agricultural field. You guys get that? That's an important point. And the government need not declare huge funds here. Agricultural fund. You guys get that? Government agricultural infrastructure fund. Everything is announced by the government. That need not happen. Why? When this happens, the company only will start. Okay, now if I'm selling Thumbs Up, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, and all, if I have to buy, the company gives me one refrigerator also, because without the refrigerator, the cool drink will not be cool anymore, and the customer will not like it anymore. Similarly, I am a farmer and you are a company, you want to buy potatoes from me. And if my potatoes are not kept in the right way, what do? You might just start providing me infrastructure facilities to ensure that the quality of the product is good and your customers are happy. So this way, without government giving a lot of money for infrastructure development of agriculture, the agricultural infrastructure will still grow. Why? The straight away investment is taken from the private players. You guys get that? So that's an important point. And it will reduce cost of marketing and improve income of farmers. Obviously, isn't it? Yeah. So effective dispute resolution mechanism has been provided with clear lines. Okay, they have given a dispute resolution mechanism. That's what I told. The companies will be legally more smart than the farmer. This might lead to exploitation of farmer, and this might create certain disputes. So to solve these disputes, they have created a mechanism. We have to wait and see how is it implemented, and how actually will it come out as it is on the paper. If everything comes out the way it's in paper, that's good. But the fact is, like, implementation is a very key factor for success of any particular thing. So that's an important thing which we need to just wait and see, and we can't decide anything upon that right now. And the last one is to research new technology in agriculture, as I told you previously. One thing that they've skipped and not covered it in this part is essential commodities. I'll tell you just brief part of this, and then we'll go to questions. Now, the agricultural infrastructure development, every year we see, thousands of crores of the budget is being announced by the government for building cold storage facilities or anything of that sort, okay, warehouses and everything. Now, why is it that any other private player has not built this? The reason is pretty obvious. It is illegal. It is illegal. But sir, is it illegal to build a cold storage? It is not literally illegal to build a cold storage, but there are a lot of restrictions. This act comes in picture. The name of this act is Essential Commodities Act. Essential Commodities Act, what does it do is, there are certain commodities which are listed in this essential commodities, like maybe like rice, oil, potato, onion, all these. Okay, these things you cannot accumulate them, you cannot warehouse them in huge quantities. Now the question is, why would someone warehouse them in huge quantities? Now, whenever the demand is there, demand is more, the supply is more. Sorry. Whenever the supply is more, what will happen? The price will fall. But if I can stop the supply, then the commodity in the market will become scarce. And the commodity in the market, when it becomes scarce, the prices shoot up. So what I'll do is, assume that there is 1,000 tons of onion produced in this year. So I'll take entire 1,000 tons and I'll keep it in my warehouse and then lock it up. I'll not let it come into the market. Me being a middleman. You go to the market, you don't find onion. So then what will happen? Everyone wants onion. So the price of the onion will move from 100 rupees per kg to 150 rupees per kg. You know what will I do then? Then I'll start selling my onions. So if I would have sold at the previous stage, I would have sold it at 100. Now I created this artificial scarcity, because of which the price of the onion shot up from 100 to 150. You guys get that? Yeah, this is something that happened. So government will say you can't keep onions beyond this quantity. You can't warehouse the onions beyond this quantity. Similar thing happened in the month of April, May with regard to hand sanitizers, N95 masks, PPE kits and masks and all, PPE kits and everything, because that was of great importance then. So if people start stocking all this sanitizer and masks and everything, then the supply will reduce, because of which the prices will shoot up. You guys get that? So they told you can't warehouse sanitizer and masks beyond this extent. So it has to come into the market and people should get it at a lower price. Now, when this kind of a restriction is there, why would I build a warehouse? And because of this, tons and tons of groceries and grains which is grown by the farmers is lost. Government cannot keep it, because it cannot invest so much in, what to say, the warehousing. Now what they've done is they've brought in changes to this Essential Commodities Act. They're trying to remove a lot of things from this Essential Commodities Act. They're removing a lot of things from the Essential Commodities Act. When they remove a lot of products from the essential commodities, there will be no restriction on warehousing them. So I am a company, I start warehousing, I start stocking up on certain commodity. Can I do that? Yes. If I start doing that, it will lead to artificial scarcity, which will lead to increase in the prices. So the impact of this Essential Commodities Act amendment might lead to increase in the prices of the commodities in the market. Like we consumers from the cities would have to buy products in the market for a little higher price. That will happen. I'm not saying it can happen, that will happen. That will happen. But the profits will straight away eventually go to the farmers, is the kind of intention with which the bill is being made. If it again goes to some other company, then we can't really help it. The act is not completely justifying or fulfilling the objective with which it was made. You guys get that? But the government still has the power to bring back certain things to Essential Commodities Act. Now they're telling no goods is essential commodities. But if in case a war happens with China right now, or if there is a huge famine, or if there is a huge increase in the prices, then the government can bring these goods back into Essential Commodities Act. If the government brings the goods back to Essential Commodities Act, the companies cannot safeguard them in huge quantities. You guys get that? But they've told we'll bring it back only when it is like if the prices shoot up by more than 100% with respect to perishable commodities like potato, onion, and everything. Or if the price shoots up more than 50%, only then we'll bring it into essential commodities. This is with respect to cereals, pulses, oil, and everything. Like for example, assume that certain cereal it is 10 rupees per kg. Example, just for understanding, it is 10 rupees per kg, usual price. If the price, because of artificial scarcity that is created by certain companies who built big warehouses, if the price goes up till 16 rupees, 10 to 16, 6 rupees increase, that is 60% increase. So again, what will the government do? Government will bring that particular cereal or pulse into Essential Commodities Act. Then people can't stock it in huge quantities. I mean to say tons and tons, thousands of tons in warehouses, you can't stock it. You should sell it. Done. And with respect to potato and onion, assume that the per kg it is 20 rupees. Yeah, per kg assume that it's 100 rupees. Then if the price comes till 200, it's okay. If it goes beyond 200, more than 100% increase, then the government will tell you can't stock it. Now why? See, potato and onion are perishable commodities. You can't stock them up for long. So you have to bring it out and then sell. So government is okay till 100% hike in the prices. Or if it is a case of any famine or big flood or natural disaster or a war, then the government can actually make this essential commodities and tell you can't stock these products, you would have to sell them. Done. So that's the news with respect to this agricultural bill. I tried to be as much apolitical as possible and then fairly put across the points that's there with respect to this bill. And this bill came into picture in Lok Sabha on 14th of September. Yeah, and you guys can just read this. Okay, Narendra Singh Tomar is the minister for what is say Minister of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Rural Development and Panchayat who put across this bill, and it was approved in Rajya Sabha on 17th of September, and that's the news with respect to this bill. Just get familiar with certain dates here: 17th of September, 14th of September. Who's the Minister for Agriculture? Narendra Singh Tomar, and the rest of it you people have understood. Now, as you people have understood, it is your responsibility now to whoever who's not actually clear about this particular thing, you would have to tell them how exactly does this bill impact the agricultural scenario, and then have a very healthy conversation with them, and then tell them facts and not your opinions. And you people are literate, you people are smart enough, so you need to be able to tell what you know and hear what the other person knows without fighting. Though you people believe in two different ideologies, you can still talk to them, smile at them, and then just say, okay, fine, nice, good perspective to hear, and then you have to go. So, and ending a conversation without fighting and healthily interchanging opinions or healthily interchanging the things that you know is the sign that you should show as an educated person. Yeah. Okay, come on. Let's go ahead and we'll quickly discuss the few MCQs that's basically given in this particular current affairs bulletin. Yeah. The first one. Which country is the chairman of BRICS 2020? It was headed by Vladimir Putin. Russia is the answer. Done. Next one. Pranab Mukherjee, who passed away recently. Deep condolences. A great man. Yeah, he basically died. So, which is the number? Like, which president of India was he? Like, he was the 13th president of India, and then 14th was Pratibha Patil, and then 15th is Ramnath Singh Kovind. Next one, Let's go to which among the following ministry banned 118 Chinese mobile apps recently, including PUBG and TikTok. Which was that? It was Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. It was not banned because people were using it excessively. It was banned because now when you open any app and then log in, you give a lot of data, no? Your name, your mail ID, and some apps will ask for your GPS location also. So all this data is supposed to be kept private and it's supposed to be kept like. But these apps were using it for some other purpose, or basically they've been used to affect the national security. So that's the reason these apps were brought down. You guys get that? Yes. Next one, who has been appointed as 14th Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Yeah, you might have we've discussed this in the class when we discussed the newspaper. It is Pradeep, sorry, it is not Pradeep Kumar, it is Murmu, Girish Chandra Murmu. It is Girish Chandra Murmu. Yeah, I very clearly remember the word Murmu. The next one, who launched the transparent taxation, honoring the honest platform? It was Narendra Modi. Yeah, like there are a lot of taxpayers in the country who pay tax honestly. They should get some benefit for it, no? Like, okay, fine, I pay tax correctly, I should get some kind of a benefit. Yeah, I'm paying my money, you using my money for benefiting those people who actually earn money but lie to the government. So we need to appreciate those honest taxpayers. In fact, we discussed this in the other bulletin also. The Prime Minister of the country was saying that he thanked the honest taxpayers, saying that okay, it's because of the fact that you paying the tax on time that we are able to do this, handle this complete pandemic in a right way. So honoring the honest is the scheme that's been announced by Narendra Modi. Then Sri Narendra Modi, the Honorable Prime Minister, recently inaugurated submarine optical fiber. Yeah, optical fiber is that pipe or cable that's been laid to talk over. Now, when you make a call from here to USA or here to London, how do you think the network will pass? Like from your phone's end tip, it will go to the nearest network tower. From that network tower, do you think it will go to satellite and then go to US? If you are under such assumption, wrong. It will go from one network tower to other network tower to one more network tower. It will go till the coast, maybe like Chennai or maybe Mangalore or maybe any of those coasts, Mumbai, any of those coasts. From those coasts, they put layers, or say they put cable under the seabed. Optical fiber is a wire, it's a proper wire. It's been put under the seabed on the ocean from here to Dubai and then Dubai to London and then London to USA. So whenever you make a call or whenever I'm basically when I upload this video, the entire thing is going. Now if I'm posting this video on YouTube, what will happen? The YouTube server is in USA. Assume that the YouTube server is in USA. So entire thing that I save is going to be saved in the server which is there in USA, and entire thing will not go through satellite. It will go through wire. And if you sit in Bangalore and then open YouTube and then press, every bit of data that you watch comes from the server which is there in USA. From USA, the entire data transfers through the optical fiber all the way till the Mumbai coast. From there, it will come to the network tower, one network tower to another network tower, another network tower to one more, and finally it will reach your phone. All this happens in a fraction of seconds. Such is the power of optical fiber. Yeah, and that optical fiber connectivity has been provided to Port Blair, Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Yeah, with this, what will happen? Andaman and Nicobar will have faster internet now. That will lead to way more growth of tourism and way more growth or more nicer sense of connectivity in Andaman. You guys get that? And one company which is basically into optical fibers in a very crazy way is Reliance. Reliance is coming out with Geo Fiber. If you guys are following it up, if once they put up optical fibers across the country and then fiber net across the country, the internet will become way more cheaper. Now you might be paying 1,500 rupees for a Wi-Fi connection, or to say Wi-Fi connection at your house, but it will become way more cheaper. It will come down by 20-30% when it comes to the rate, and then it's going to make things very cheap and very much accessible to every other person in the country. Yeah, let's go to the next one. Who is the new election commissioner appointed? It is Rajiv Kumar. Rajiv Kumar is a newly appointed election commissioner in our country. And next one, and he's going to take care of the Bihar elections that's coming up. Lot of news with regard to Bihar election. The entire way of promoting or contesting for the elections have changed. No, it was all online. It was all in the electronic format. Yeah, when all that was happening, Rajiv Kumar was the person who's dictating the terms as to how much allowed, how much not allowed, what is not allowed, and everything. Yeah. And who among the following has conferred with Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna Award in hockey discipline during National Sports Awards 2020? So you're asking who has been conferred with the hockey award, or to say award for Rajiv Gandhi Khel Ratna award, the highest award for any sportsman in our country. Yeah, Vinesh Phogat. Vinesh Phogat is into what? Wrestling. And Rani Rampal is a person who's into hockey. Yeah, she's a lady. Rohit Sharma is a cricketer, as you know. Manika Batra is a table tennis champion. Yeah, so the answer is Rani Rampal. And we've discussed this in our regular class. If you guys can go back to sports affairs and then flip through papers, we basically discuss this. In fact, I've made you write this in the regular class. Yeah, I hope you guys still remember. Next one. Which state government has launched Indira Rasoi Yojana, not Rasodeme Kaunta. It's like Indira Rasoi Yojana to provide meals at 8 rupees. If you guys are from the state of Karnataka, you might have seen this project under the previous, no, not previous, previous to previous state government. When Congress government was in rule in the state of Karnataka, that was, right now we have CM Yediyurappa, before that it was Kumaraswamy, and before that it was Siddaramaya. When Siddaramaya was there, in the last 1 year of that Congress term, in the 5th year, they basically came out with this project called as Indira Canteen, which gave breakfast at 6 rupees and lunch at 12 rupees, if I'm not wrong. And those Indira canteens have been installed across multiple places in the state of, in the city of Bangalore. You can see hundreds of them across Bangalore. You guys get that? So similar to that, one more project was introduced in Rajasthan. It was in Rajasthan. The name of the project is Indira Rasoi Yojana, wherein the food will be provided at 8 rupees. And Indira means in the memory of late Prime Minister of our country, the daughter of the first Prime Minister of our country. That is Jawaharlal Nehru's daughter, Indira Gandhi. Yep. Next one. Who authored the book The Presidential Years? It is our late President Pranab Mukherjee. He had authored this book by name Presidential Years, wherein he wrote about how his times, how was his times during the time when he was president. How was his times? Bolke written a book. Yeah. So that's it. These are the answer to the 10 questions, and this is the discussion with respect to September 2020's e-bulletin issued by ICSI for the purpose of CSET. So very soon, when the October month's bulletin will be out, I'll be back discussing the bulletin all again. But till then, whatever is happening on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, please do follow up on the news and then read things so that you'll be aware of it. The objective of this current affairs paper in your CSET is not to just make you mug up few things and then write the exam, but this is to inculcate an habit in you to be aware of the news that's happening around. So that's the intention of ICSI. Let's all uphold and then stand up to it. And not to forget the motto of our ICSI, Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. And remember, whatever I am trying to tell, Swadhyayanam Ma Pramada. Don't ever put a full stop on your self study. Continue studying, because studying is a process and not a destination. See you all guys in the next video. Till then, stay in the game. Bye bye.